Hey there, this is Natalie, back with more stories from some of the best subreddits. Please subscribe for more Reddit videos and ring the bell so you never miss an upload. Here's another shocker of a story entitled OP discovers that her husband has a second family that he's been keeping secret. This was originally posted in r/relationship advice by a throwaway account, user throwra broken wife. And the original post begins, "My 41 female, husband 52 male, has a second family on the side." I've been sitting with this information for almost 2 weeks now, and I still don't know how to proceed. My husband has been in what seems like a committed relationship with another woman, and he's playing happy families with her and her 3 sons. They're even planning on having a baby. A week ago, I stumbled on a TikTok account of this lady sharing her recipes, and in the background, I recognised my husband's back. I wasn't too sure at first, but after taking a real good look, and as his wife, I know that fool's neck, back, legs, and the clothing he was wearing, so I went looking through her posted videos, just to piece together a confirmation of it really being my husband, and I continued to keep an eye on him and his movements. But he seemed normal. It's clear to me now that he has his cheating down to a science. Every time he went on his work trips, she'd post these videos saying she's cooking a new recipe because her man is coming back from his work trip. She'd plate the food up, and I'd recognise his grubby hands by their look and the way he'd hold the cutlery. He has a peculiar way of holding it, kind of looks like a Neanderthal discovering forks and knives. I can't believe this bastard has been with her for 3 years. I don't know how he found the time to start an entire relationship on the side. I thought we were happy. He tells me he loves me all the time, always brings me a gift from his work trips. When he's home, we have a great sex life and pretty much have sex 4 to 6 times a week. We talk all the time. We've been married for 21 years and we have 2 daughters. We lost our eldest son 10 years ago, but we worked through it and got closer than ever before. We're even due to have our 22nd anniversary, and it's his turn to plan it. We alternate who plans the anniversary each year. I know he's been planning an elaborate party for us, so why is he cheating? I'm so angry and don't know what steps to take. I'm utterly distraught. I thought we were happy. I thought he loved our little life. I feel like I can't think and I barely know where to start. I can barely focus. What do I do and how do I do it? I love coming on here and reading things and giving advice, but now that it's me, I feel like I can't think. I nearly burned my kitchen down because I literally spaced out and forgot that I was cooking. Well guys, I guess today is not the day for there to be a video where there isn't a story where somebody's life is at least tangentially ruined by TikTok. I mean, what a random way to find out something like this. Just looking at some lame recipe things on TikTok. But to be fair, it doesn't even sound like she has any particular evidence of anything. It could just be that there's a guy who's an absolute dead ringer for her husband, even down to the way he holds his cutlery. But I suppose there is the thing with the dates of the business trips lining up with the dates when she posts videos about cooking for her man. So I suppose that is kind of difficult to see as just a coincidence, as well as the guy looking and having similar mannerisms. I kind of want more proof that this isn't just a weird doppelganger situation though. But before we get into the update, there is a relevant comment from Crystal Queen 3000 who says, collect all the evidence, all of the videos, and a timeline of all his work trips. Contact a divorce lawyer and hit him with divorce papers. I'm normally of the approach that splits should be as amicable as possible, but this fricker has a whole second family. Be the definition of a woman scorned. OP replies, I've been downloading all her TikToks and screenshot everything she's posted on her Instagram. I've also been collecting all our bank statements, but I can't find anything incriminating. At this point, I'm thinking he has a secondary bank account I don't know of, and he's probably having the posts delivered at his office or at his mistress's house. I'm actually considering hiring a private investigator to do a deep dive, since I can't find any other evidence of his cheating. And then we have the update from 3 weeks later. And she begins, "Firstly, thank you all for your kindness and for the great advice you've given me. I am truly grateful. The past couple of weeks have been a whirlwind of emotions. I've been able to engage the services of a great divorce lawyer, and I was advised to not let my husband know that I knew of his affair. I was then finally given the go-ahead a few days ago, and, well, at first he refused to admit to anything, but I was prepared for that, and I showed him all the online posts his mistress made. I also showed him pictures taken by my investigator. He still denied it, then accused me of being insane. Then, after hours of me just throwing evidence after evidence at him, he finally admitted to the affair. He tried to twist things so that he could weasel and lie his way out of it, but I was relentless. I did not let him twist reality and make me doubt the plain truth. We argued all day and all night. It was exhausting. The next morning, he tried to get on my good side, because I woke up to him having made breakfast and he was begging me to not hate him and to find it in my heart to forgive. I told him I could not and that I wanted a divorce. That brought on the waterworks and he called me a heartless and unforgiving bish. He then left to take his things to his parents' house as I had asked him to leave. While he was at his parents', I went to his mistress's home. My sister went with me. She waited in the car. And, well, she let me in and we talked. She wasn't even surprised I was there. I had already suspected she was aware of him being a married man, but I still gave her the benefit of the doubt. She was actually gloating when she told me about how in love he is with her, how good he is to her boys, and how he bought her the house, the car, and all of the other money he spent on her. She then told me if I wasn't such a lazy bish and gold digger, he wouldn't have been so easily taken, and how my lack of submission and servitude was the reason he cheated. How am I a lazy bish when I'm the primary parent and homemaker is beyond me, and how am I a gold digger? I don't understand, as I work and earn more than him. As she was flapping her gums, he arrived and he was pissed off at her. He was calling me a ton and I'd texted him that I was at the mistress's house. They argued as he told her not to speak to me like that, and he in no uncertain terms told her that he wants to be with me, that she's ruining his chance at saving his marriage. I just thanked her for being forthcoming and continued to laugh my way out of the house because, yes, my husband makes great money, but as his business partner, I own half of his business, and as his wife, I own half of all his other assets too. So I'm glad that she gloated and that she confirmed that he paid for most of what she has. Now I know for certain that he nor she deserve an ounce of my sympathy, and I will take back everything he ever gave her and much more. And in the relevant comments, typical agency 8984 says, "Hire a forensic accountant ASAP." And OP replies, "Oh, did that, because I'm certain he used company finances to live extra lavishly." Now, you know what guys, I'm going to be honest here. I find a lot of this quite difficult to believe. I do usually try to make these videos on the principle that everybody is telling the truth. You know, that the stories are all real. At least, you know, the OP's side of the story is genuinely the things that happened and the way that they reacted. And that's because it's just more interesting to look at these situations as real things that happened and, you know, discuss who did what right or who is the butthole, all of that kind of stuff. And just picking apart, well, this is probably fake because half the stuff on the internet is fake and people just post things to Reddit to get karma, etc., is just kind of like defeating the point of really just listening to interesting stories and thinking about them. But of the ones I've read that I think might not be true, this is definitely one of them. The chances of finding out something like this from a TikTok by someone you're not in any way connected to and don't follow or anything, I mean, I guess the algorithm could be recommending things to her based on what her husband is watching, and I would assume he follows the mistress, but yeah, it still just seems a bit too random. And the way that things came to a head afterwards, the husband just begging her to come back and The mistress pulling a typical kind of cartoon villain thing, with all that kind of just pearly things nonsense about how she wasn't submissive and didn't serve him enough, and she's a gold digger and all that. The whole expenditure thing too. I mean, if she really is his business partner, and, you know, you would think she does keep an eye on the finances, how would he have been able to, even with a second bank account she didn't know about, earn and spend the amount of money that the mistress is claiming for like a house and a car and things like that without her noticing? It's not like he's got a salaried job and she doesn't necessarily know how much he gets paid, or, you know, if he's doing extra work and getting paid overtime and things like that, that she doesn't know about and he's putting that in a second account. No, he's supposedly working for a business that they run together. And again, she would know if she's part of his business. She would know where he was going on work trips, when and why. And if he never arrives on those trips because he's instead off with the mistress, it doesn't add up at all. If you were going to make this story up, it would have been better to say, had a well-paid job, but she didn't know exactly how much he earned, and, you know, he went on a lot of business trips. This whole thing sort of, I don't know, it kind of reads like a fanfic that someone has written about how they imagine a husband would react when he was caught doing something like this, begging her to come back, being abusive to the mistress, all of that sort of thing. The mistress being an absolute villain, even though usually in these second family situations, you know, not that they are a typical thing that happens, usually both of the wives or partners are completely in the dark about it. Yeah, it just doesn't really have that spark of truth to it, to me. But as I said, it is more interesting to consider these things as if they are true. And yes, it would be a case of you'd have to find a way to execute the divorce that did take into account any spending that he's been doing, you know, of company money and things like that. There's no mention in the story of how the children are reacting to this situation. I'm assuming they're grown-up children, but if they were approaching 22 years of marriage, they're still going to be in their late teens or early 20s, and probably will be quite affected by this situation. But yeah, you cannot stick with someone when you find out they've got a secret whole other life. You're literally married to a stranger at that point. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Now, this is a nice wholesome story if you've perhaps been listening to some of the less wholesome ones and want something a bit more uplifting. You know, just to renew your faith in humanity a little. Though it is entitled, "My Husband Doesn't Know That I Know What He's Up To." It was posted to r/marriage and the user was pickledcarrot19. And OP begins. My 33 female, husband 34 male, and I had our first baby back in June of last year. My husband's aunt gifted our son a lovely chunky knitted blanket. The blanket is so soft, and I've made multiple comments about how I'd like to find a full-size blanket just like it, because it's so cozy, and I'm kind of jealous of my baby. Well, this past weekend, my husband snuck off to the store. He refused to tell me where he was going and why, but I later found a plastic bag with the logo of a local crafting store. That evening, my husband stated that he would like to have an hour of alone time every night after our husband goes to sleep. He stressed that he would not like to be disturbed, but if I needed him, then I could call or text him. I agreed to this because we're both adjusting to having very little me time since the birth of our son. Last night, during his alone time, our son started crying. I checked the baby monitor and saw that he'd simply lost his pacifier and was going back to sleep. However, the baby monitor also shows part of our son's room, not just his crib. In the corner of his room, I saw my husband sitting on the floor with a bunch of chunky yarn in front of him. I turned the volume up and heard that he was watching a YouTube video on how to finger knit. This sweet man is making me a blanket. He absolutely loves surprising me, but is terrible at keeping secrets. I just know that he's going to slip up and accidentally mention something about the blanket at some point. I plan on acting clueless so that I will still be surprised when he gives it to me. I just love him so much, and I'm so delighted that he's learning a new skill so I can have a custom blanket. And in the relevant comments, a deleted commenter says, "Oh my god, the title makes it sound like it could have been something else, but it's so cute. Also, why do men always seem to forget about the baby monitor?" Fuzzy Propagation replies, "Because he isn't being deceptive. If anything, he's allowed her to know that he isn't up to anything by being in the view of the baby monitor. He's being very transparent about this surprise gift, and I love this for OP. It's something I'll steal and do for my partner when we have kids." And OP replies, "So he just came home from work and mentioned his alone time again. To keep up the facade, I asked him what he would be doing during that time, and he said, just working on some stuff. Since he's so terrible at keeping surprises, he always tells me, I have something planned, but I can't tell you what it is. And then we do this back and forth where I ask him about it and he refuses to tell me. So for the sake of his surprise to me, I will keep occasionally asking him what he's up to during his alone time." User Psychological Wall 68 says, "Thank you for this lovely post and sweet story that is restoring some of my faith in marriage and humanity today. Please, please, please don't let me come back in several weeks to an update that he used the blanket to pay off a gambling debt, give it to his best friend's ex for her birthday, or made it into a furry suit for himself. Reddit has been absolutely unhinged the past few months." And OP replies, "If he managed to knit himself a fursuit, I wouldn't even be mad. I'd be wildly impressed that he had such talent." Echoing in the Void says, "What a sweet, lovely partner. Mine can't keep a secret either, and I love giving the validation of surprise and enthusiasm when they present the final piece to me. Just wonderful." OP says, "If you asked my husband, he'd tell you he's very good at surprising me, but little does he know he's actually very obvious whenever he's planning something. I'm rarely surprised, but I always act like I am." Oh, I think a lot of people are like that because they're so excited about surprising someone and they so badly want to talk about the little project they're working on and how much it's going to be a wonderful surprise for the person that they're talking to. They just can't help kind of giving it away if they're not very skilled at lying or covering up what they're doing. And of course, not being skilled at lying is kind of a desirable trait for a partner to have. In the past, I've always done the same as OP and just kind of played along with it and pretended to be surprised when I've figured out a surprise was incoming long before it happened. But there have been a few times in my life when someone has managed to pull off a real surprise. Still, there is an update where OP says, "Brief backstory. I posted recently about how I checked the baby monitor while my son was sleeping and saw my husband sitting on the floor of my son's room finger knitting a blanket for me after I made a comment on how I wanted a chunky blanket. My sweet husband broke. He kept on mentioning that he was working on a surprise for me. I would occasionally ask what this mysterious project was, and he would get a cheeky smile and say, 'I can't tell you.' That eventually evolved into him repeatedly telling me that keeping the surprise was really hard, and he wanted to just tell me. I kept saying, 'No, you've kept it a surprise for this long, you can keep going.' But one day after dinner, he decided he couldn't keep it in anymore. He showed it to me. It was only about a quarter done, but it was lovely. The yarn was really soft and was my favourite colour. I could tell he's taken his time because of the consistency of all the loops. Even unfinished, it was perfect. He told me that he kept moving it around to different hiding spots, but since our house is very small, it was only a matter of time before I accidentally found it. He said he'd run out of yarn and asked if I wanted to pick out another colour to add to it. I said yes, and we made a little date out of it. We grabbed lunch and then walked around the craft store, and I picked out a complementary colour to the one that he chose. He hasn't had much time to work on it the last few days, but he assured me it will be finished by my birthday. I'll post a picture of the blanket when it's finished. For now, I'm wildly impressed with how long he kept it a secret, and I'm so excited to have my first ever handmade blanket." Now that's just adorable. I want a man to knit things for me. Guys, I may have said in the past that it wasn't the most manly of pursuits, but this post has changed my mind. This is cute. Now, the top comments on that include Disastrous Offer 2270, who says, "Oh my god, I was ready for another unhappy story, but this is the sweetest thing I've read on this sub. What a sweet, sweet man." Tiger in the Lily says, "As a crocheter, if he does not finish before your birthday, whether that is next week or in 5 months, tell him that's totally normal. It's like a rite of crochet passage that gifts are not delivered on or before the intended event. We do need photos. Photos." Now, there don't seem to have been any photos added to this post. I am getting it off of Best of Redditor updates, but they usually do include images when they're relevant to the post. So I guess she never did update with pictures of the blanket. Whether that means the blanket wasn't finished in time or she just didn't really care about updating Reddit about it after that point. Who knows? But maybe we don't need to see a picture of a random internet stranger's birthday present anyway. But maybe I'm just saying that because people demanding photos of everything all the time is one of my pet hates in life in general. But what do you guys think about this post? Do you know anyone who's really bad at keeping surprises a secret? Have you ever pulled off something like this and actually managed to keep it a surprise? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you for listening to today's stories. I hope you're having a wonderful day or evening, and I hope to see you again very soon.